Hi, tongue your roof, meetings together. Well, we did it. Domain F, stakeholder management, another one done. So that means end of second trimester. So exciting, so happy. Okay, so another great week, a nice short week. Let's just jump right in. So, Domain F, stakeholder management, only 6 questions from the exam come from this domain. So that is only 4% of your exam. However, 6 questions for the little amount of information we learned is quite a bit. So we want to make sure that we really have a grasp on it. So, what is stakeholder management? So, by definition, it's people who can have an impact on the success of the event or people who are affected by the event. So, that means what? Pretty much everybody is considered a stakeholder. So, anyone whose interests may be positively or negatively affected by the event. So, that is a stakeholder. And we can break it down further. So then we break it down into internal and external. So you need to understand the difference in who is an internal stakeholder and who is an external stakeholder. So for internal, obviously, think inside, internal, inside. So people within your organization. And then external would be people external from your organization, so outside of your event or organization. But the first priority in managing stakeholder activities is you have to clearly identify the event owner. So that's your first priority. And the event owner is the person who's requested the event. And they're like the big kahuna. They're responsible for defining the overall objectives and the measurable outcomes. Now, the budget owner is also kind of a key player, and these are internal stakeholders that I'm talking about. This all fits under the finance. So the budget owner is also kind of an important player, key player. But I guess let's just jump into the difference. So the internal, these are just some suggestions. There's more in the book. So I have listed the internal, which is the finance, procurement, which is also known as your purchasing department, technology. This is all your IT, legal, and risk management. So the book also has like sales and marketing and security, sustainability department, human resources, training, facilities. Again, so anything inside your organization, internal. And then, so again, external. So those are your participants, your attendees, the suppliers, media, partners, contributors. So your local community, different organizations. Oh, I don't think you can see it. Local community organizations and businesses. How do I move this? I'll just put it there. So basically, all event professionals should make sure that we are identifying who the stakeholders are. Then we have to understand their objectives. We need to make sure we're communicating and managing those relationships to make sure that we're achieving our specific objectives, because every stakeholder is going to have different interests and objectives. So we'll get into that in the next slide, which is right here. So stakeholders will have different degrees of interest in the event, depending on what level they fit into. And that's how you know basically how much to keep those stakeholders informed. So you should start by conducting the stakeholder interviews. And then after the interviews, you want to make stakeholder profiles and create profiles based on those interviews, and then keep them for history and moving forward, things like that. And then obviously the stakeholders who have the greatest influence on the success of the event, those are the ones that you want to interview and keep informed throughout the whole event life cycle. So the diagram shows stakeholders in categories, so you know how to interact with them. So you have the influence versus interest. So you aren't going to continually be updating your local bakery every week with your projection numbers. So there, as you can see, local businesses would be low interest, low influence. So you are going to inform them the least amount. Then you have, the high influence, high interest, that is where your event owner falls in. So that is somebody that you're going to be keeping updated and included and making sure that they're engaged and staying current, and you're just keeping them communicated and happy the entire time. So you really want to make sure that you understand the different categories and know an example, like who fits in each category. So I have it kind of highlighted for you. So if on the exam you see a question about, a category mentioning like a small bakery, then you'd know that that fits in the local business. So you'd know it would be low. And then just know that the budget owner is high influence, low interest, and then the event owner, high and high. And then you have your volunteers, they have a high interest, but low influence. So kind of memorize those categories for sure. Lastly, managing those stakeholder relationships. So we started out basically saying, anyone who's affected by the event is a stakeholder. And then we broke it down to internal versus external. And then we broke it down further, putting those stakeholders into those categories. And now that we've kind of broken it all down, we really want to make sure that since we're zoned in now, that we really foster and take care of the relationships so we can cement these relationships into long-term. So we have communication, recognition, conflict resolution, and legal. So for communication, I gave that example about, making sure that everybody stays informed. You want to make sure your staff and employees are informed of their roles and their responsibilities, and making sure that you're keeping track of those to make sure objectives are getting accomplished, your KPIs, and you want to make sure that you're empowering. Battery saver mode. I better go charge that battery. That you're empowering your team members so they're meeting their responsibilities and their expectations. And then recognition, you want to find out what motivates people, and everybody's different. Every stakeholder will have different motivations as well. So you want to make sure that you are encouraging teamwork by creating a culture that people value and feel that they're contributing, and that people are being treated equal. And then conflict resolution. We all know that noticing conflict at an early stage is key to resolving the conflict. So you want to nip it in the bud right away. And then lastly, legal considerations. This is the Good Samaritan law, which offers legal protection for those people who are giving assistance to people that are in need. So an example as it relates to events is if you have food left over for a buffet and then you donate it to a local food bank. Not many hotels will let you do that, but if that's an example, and then someone gets sick, you're covered under this Good Samaritan law. So you were doing something as a Good Samaritan, and it protects you from being sued. Kind of like if you're giving somebody CPR and you break a rib and they sue you, you're covered under the Good Samaritan law. So just knowing your legal considerations as well. And that's it. Woohoo! Okay, remember last week I mentioned how the EIC has this confused. So it says skill 12, but it's actually skill 13. So it's skill 13, 1, 2, and 3. So skill 13.1 is perform stakeholder analysis to align expectations with goals and objectives. So this was, basically just identifying and analyzing who those different types of stakeholders are. You remember the internal and the external and the budget owner and the event owner and what their objectives are. Because remember, their analysis to align expectations with goals and objectives. So the budget owner has different expectations and objectives than the event owner, unless they're the same person. But anyways, and then 13.2, manage stakeholder activities to meet expectations. This was the conducting interviews and creating those stakeholder profiles and understanding how to communicate with stakeholders based on those 4 categories that we put them into. Remember those? And then lastly, 13.3, communicate event goals and objectives to manage stakeholder relationships. And that was the communication, recognition, conflict resolution, and legal. Okay, so we wrapped up Domain F, so super fast. Read Skill 13, Chapter 15 in your PMM book. We did Domain Review Quiz and Key Terms Quiz, complete Domain Review and time block for next week, and catch up in any other domain. So if you got finished with this in a day, which you probably did, you hopefully went back and looked at some other domains, went back and looked at AB, maybe some formulas. Okay, so looking ahead, do not freak out. So we are about to head into Domain G, and I call it the Big Kahuna. So as you can see from all these skills, we have a lot of work to do. However, we have a lot of time that we're focusing on this. So in track 2, we are spending 4 weeks inside of Domain G. So we're going to start, again, remember, I love to break things down into small pieces, so we're not going to get overwhelmed by looking at all this. So for next week, we're just going to focus on skill 14 and 15. Ignore all of this stuff. So on your time block master sheet, this is the one for July for track 2. So we're right here. August 23rd to the 29th, skills 14 and 15. That's all we're going to do this week. So next Friday, this is all I'm going to review. I'm not going to review the entire Domain G. I'm only going to review skills 14 and 15. So that is your homework assignment for next week. Jump on in for skill 14 and 15, and I will see you back next Friday. Bye.